أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ومولانا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين. روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقتمه الفداء. أما بعد, as we continue with regards to the verses on the topic related to the urges of this dunya, we had talked about a few issues, among them what these different shahawat are, and we had chosen 5 of them. Among them, that which is related to food and eating, that which is related to the love of wealth, the love of position and fame, the love of sons, and the love of women, or the love of the other opposite gender. And we'd also, among the questions that we had posed, is that who is it who beautifies this love? Because of the fact that in that verse that we quoted in the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَى آخِرِهِ. That beautified for people is the love of women, the opposite gender, and the rest. So we had posed the question, who is it that beautifies this? Because of the fact that this plays a role in us knowing what the limits are supposed to be, and it helps us understand this verse properly. So, I mentioned that there are different opinions considering who actually beautifies this. So the first opinion that I had mentioned today, and inshallah I will mention all of them today so that we can get a general picture. The first opinion was that this is actually the doing of shaitan. This is because of the fact that this verse is actually dispraising these urges in the context and the words that are used, and no one would dispraise this dunya and this love of it more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In general, Allah generally used all of urges, and when He say hubbu shahawat, all of urges, absolute, generally. And this will include halal and haram urges, we said, and we know that the beautifier of haram urges is shaitan. Secondly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses words such as heaps of gathered gold and silver. Allah did not say the love of, for example, wealth or money. He used such words. And we know that that high level of love and connection to this dunya, whereby a person just looks toward and becomes attached to this, to fidda, to silver, to gold, and to gems, etc. This is with regards to a person who is connected and very, very much attached to this dunya. This is not something that Allah would want to beautify in the eyes of a human being. So based upon that, this must be from shaitan. Again, another part of the verse which actually also is an indication that this is not the doing of Allah, this beautifying. Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, ذَلِكَ مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, that is the enjoyment of this world, or this worldly life. So, this is again in the context, and another verse again, the verse that follows, verse 15 of Ali Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, قُلْ أَوْنَبِّئُكُمْ بِخَيْرٍ مِّن ذَلِكُمْ, should I inform you of something that is better than that? And of course, what is meant by this, and Allah was mentioning, He was talking about the dunya, all of a sudden He's changing the topic to something that is better, which is with regards to al-akhirah. This changing of topic in this way, after having used words that, for example, dispraise, after mentioning that is the enjoyment of this dunyawi world, and then also changing from one topic to another, and in mentioning a kind of comparison, we come to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to say that first thing, that first world, those first attachments, they're not very good. It's an indirect way of dispraising something. It's an indirect way of dispraising something. Like I gave an example, say 2 cars for example. This car is good, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a good car. This car has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and far more features and specs, etc. But when you're saying that, you're actually comparing them in that way, you're indirectly saying that don't get this car is not good. Correct? But the second opinion is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and shaitan, both of them beautify urges. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the urges, they have halal limits, and then after that they become haram. So with regards to the halal limits of these shahawat, of fulfilling these urges, this beautifying is done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the human nature, for different interests, for humanity to be able to continue and to live on this world. After that, those levels of these shahawat and these urges that lead to corruption, fasad, this is the doing of shaitan. So both of them, they beautify. This is one opinion. Second opinion. The third opinion was the opinion of Shaykh Nasir Makaram al-Shirazi in Tafsir al-Amthal. He actually says that no, it is actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who beautifies them. And in that zuyina, that passive voice, beautified for people are these things and these urges, etc. He says Allah is the one who beautifies them, not shaitan. Based upon what? He says that my proof is, first of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, He's talking about two, women, sons, money, etc. This love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in a human being in order to test him in this dunya. The I asked Shaykh Nasir Makaram al-Shirazi, how can you prove this? He says, look at this verse in the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهُمْ لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. That we have indeed made that which is on the earth an adornment for it, that we may test them, and we may test the human beings to see which one of them is the best indeed. So this is my first proof, he says. But you could tell him that Molana, Shaykhana, there is another verse that says that shaitan also makes things beautiful for people. There is another verse, or many verses, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَزَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُم. In other verses maybe, عَمَلَهُم, etc., etc. Zayyana. Shaitan also beautifies things. Why are you trying to restrict that beautifying to only Allah? Shaitan also does it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse of verse 27 of chapter 24, that shaitan made those a'mal of them, those deeds pleasing to them, beautiful to them, good to them. Shaitan also does it. What response do you have? He says no. You see, if you look at the Holy Quran, you do a search, you will find that those things that shaitan beautifies according to the Holy Quran are only deeds. The bad deeds that certain people carry out. Whereas those things which are related to human nature, beautifying of these is always ascribed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaitan can't play with human nature. Allah, He is the one who created human nature. He is the one who programmed it. Why? What does He say? فِطْرَةُ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. It is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in which He, according to which He created human beings. It gives other proofs as well. He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He has created these, He has created the dunya for us and He has created the akhirah. But when He has created the dunya for us, and He has also permitted us to benefit from the dunya. وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Don't forget your portion of the dunya. You have to get a portion. Don't go to the mountains and live in caves. You have to take your portion from this dunya, O mu'min. But when Allah created this dunya for me, He is actually Him creating this dunya and putting me in it. This is equivalent to Him beautifying this dunya for me. How? An explanation. He says, first of all, Allah created that urge in you. He created that urge in you. Secondly, He, in your human nature, in your programming, in your instincts, He made you understand that if you fulfill one of these urges, you will feel pleased. You are hungry, you go and eat an ice cream. Okay? You will feel pleased, you will enjoy it. Thirdly, He permitted you to do that. So there is a certain level of this dunya that He has permitted you to benefit from. So for Him to put that instinct in you, that urge, and to make you know through your human nature that fulfilling it is good for you, that you will like fulfilling it. Thirdly, Him permitting you to do that. All of this is equivalent and tantamount to Him beautifying This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way of beautifying things. Thirdly, he says that it is also possible to not only benefit from this dunya because of the dunya, because Allah allowed me, because He beautified this dunya for me. No. Also for the akhirah. But when a person had this love of the other agenda, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He say? That in it are signs for the people who think and ponder, the people of ration and reason. Correct or not? Right? Secondly, he says that if Allah gives you wealth, you can give sadaqah. If you are able to eat, you can consume food and get energy in order to pray and to perform ibadah. Correct or not? So when a person benefits from this dunya, we can direct our focus to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the akhirah. Fourthly, Allah also ascribes this beautifying to Himself in other verses as well. Yani the first verse that we mentioned, another verse that we will mention again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ. And who has forbidden, say who has forbidden the adornment and beauty, those things that Allah has subhanahu wa ta'ala has created as beautiful, which He has produced for His servants, and the good lawful things of provision. Who is it that has made them haram? No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made them halal. He is the one who beautified. Zinat Allah, the adornment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? However, the final opinion is what I personally am more inclined to. Shaykh Nasir Makaram al-Shirazi and those others who came, in general, what they are saying is correct. But that is not the explanation of this verse. That is general. That is a general concept of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created and what shaitan does. But I'm talking about this verse specifically. He says, Shaykh Nasir Makaram al-Shirazi, it seems that the one who beautifies these things, these levels of shahawat, these levels of urges, is either the nafs or shaitan through his whispering, through waswasa. How is it? He says, first of all, look at the context of this verse itself. زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ وَالْقَنَاطِيرِ الْمُقَنطَرَةِ إلى آخره. Right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that beautified for people are these things. Nisa, Banin, Qanatir, Muqantara. This is the situation of a person who has become so attached to this dunya. How is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ascribing this level of beautification to Himself? That's not possible. He told me that I created you for the akhirah. Correct? So how is it possible for Him to make me so attached to this dunya? It's not possible. To the extent that a person will feel self-sufficiency. Yani, I am self-sufficient, I don't need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've got money to be solely focused on that. This leads for a person to forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But secondly, the level of beautification of these different urges that is mentioned in this verse, heaps of gold, only focusing on the female. Sons, not even daughters. He says all of this does not suit the fitrah that Allah the wise would create. This is not suit the fitrah. It should have said either spouses, yani men and women instead of women, children instead of only sons, wealth instead of heaps of gold and silver, treasures like pirates. Correct? That's what a person, according to this verse, that is that is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this level is that Allah is dispraising. He's saying that this is too much. Shaykh Nasir al-Alama al-Tabai says this is too much, that level mentioned in this verse. So, after that as well, something that we also mentioned before, Allah, what does He say? That is the enjoyment of this dunya, and indirectly He's dispraising it. He also says, should I mention something that is better for you as well? Akhirah, etc. So based upon all of this, Allah is diverting His people's attention towards al-akhirah. So that is not possible. And Allah would not say that I have made this good for you, I have made this good for you, but then indirectly He would dispraise Himself. It's not possible. Based upon that, this is the general opinion. That who beautifies all of this? That level that level of these urges, it is either the nafs or shaitan, or according to another opinion of Shaykh Muhsin Qara'ati in his Tafsir al-Nur, he says that no, it could also be bad company. You see, all of you know the story of Fir'aun. Fir'aun wa mala'ihi, and the elite people from the people from the Egyptians, correct? But what were they telling him? What was the advice that they were giving him to Fir'aun? They were telling him that, oh Fir'aun, if you accept what Musa wants you to do, he is going to wipe out your religion. So what were they doing? They were doing waswasa of shaitan. Waswasa of shayateen al-ins. The devils, the human devils. Based upon that, it is possible then for bad company to also affect a human being with regards to beautifying these urges in their eyes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَكَذَلِكَ زُيِّنَ لِفِرْعَوْنَ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ. And thus was made attractive to Fir'aun the evil of his deed. But after looking at knowing who now beautifies these urges to this extent, what should the limits of these urges be? Let us just emphasize on a few points and mention something that is necessary for a human being, for a mu'min to know. These limits, these urges, they are actually a positive force when you fulfill them according to the limit that Allah has put. Why this is necessary for life to continue smoothly, for people to procreate, to have children, to work, etc. However, if a person exceeds those levels, it becomes destructive. It will lead to fasad. When you consider that these urges are something unlimited. These urges are something that is unlimited. I have to continuously fulfill them. I cannot reach that level when I am full. This becomes destructive. Of course, another point to be mentioned is that not all of these urges have the same limit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in order. And accordingly, certain shahawat, they have higher limits, certain are those which do not have the same level of strength. Among the urges are those which cannot be fully fulfilled. Instead, the more you try to fulfill them, the more that fire of these urges, it starts to burn in your heart. Like what? Like what I mentioned before. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said that if the son of Adam had 2 values of gold, he would wish for a third. Money, wealth. Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi says, to respond to an urge is the best way to fulfill it. And to fulfill an urge makes it stronger. To respond to an urge is the best way to fulfill an urge. But to fulfill it is only making it stronger. Okay? How does that mean? Radd al-shahwa, to respond. Radd ala shahwa, radd al-shahwa. Or either responding or averting a shahwa. An urge, averting an urge. Giving it only that which is necessary is the best, according, of course, based on the halal limits here. And the controlled way. That is the best way to fulfill a shahwa or to fulfill an urge. However, to go and break those limits, to say, no, I want to, I am hungry, for example, today, or I really want money, I will stretch it, I will sit in Wall Street from today to I don't know how many years, I will try to make as many billions of dollars as possible so that I can finally have that thirst in my heart quenched, that thirst for money. This is the worst way that a human being can follow in order to fulfill their urges. You need to take that which you need, maybe a little bit more, so that you can live well. But after that, there is no need. After that, you are only seeking to corrupt your nafs if you are becoming attached to these urges. Some of these shahawat, they become weaker when a person becomes sick. Your appetite maybe or with older age. However, they cannot totally die out. Imam al-Baqir Salamullahi alayhi says, the example of one who is so desirous of this dunya is like the example of a silkworm. The more the silkworm starts to weave and to spit out silk, threads, the more it traps itself. And the more it traps itself, it will reach a certain stage where it will die, it won't be able to escape. This is the same example of a mu'min. You give yourself all of these urges. You give yourself all of these urges, and you continue to do so. What does this lead to? This leads to yourself not being able to, you won't be able to escape this dunya. Then how is it possible, Molana, to do this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave you your aql. You see, this nafs, it is made up of many different parts. You have your imagination, you have your urges, your physical urges, your psychological urges and needs and whims and desires. You have your fantasy, you have your memory, you have your heart and feelings and your spirit, etc. All of this. But how do you control them? Who is the manager? The manager is the aql. The manager is aql. Inshallah, tomorrow I will explain how the aql, it should control this realm of the human self and nafs, so that a human being can actually fulfill their needs according to how a human being can remain balanced and he remain a human being. Imam Ali Salamullah alayhi says, chastity weakens urges. Chastity. That modesty, that shyness that a human being, that a mu'min should have. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in women 9 out of 10 parts. That chastity helps a person control their urges. Shahid al-Mutahhari, now I've alluded a little bit too much about what these different strengths and the different kinds of these shahawat are. Let me go directly into it. He says that shahawat, these natural urges, are of 2 kinds. A kind which is apparent and limited, such as the need to eat and sleep. The desire for them is ended by fulfilling them, and you will eat, khair inshallah, you will become full, maybe you'll eat a little bit more. But more than that, it's going to be very difficult for you to eat. Correct? You need sleep. Okay, you may go to the best cottage in the countryside and have the most fulfilling sleep. After that, you feel, I can't sleep anymore, I'm just going to get bored. Correct? So these, they have a certain limit to them. Another kind of these urges are actually far deeper, like the love of wealth, position, fame, physical urges. Now a human being is generally not content by however much he has of these. This is something psychological. I mean, imagine taking, for example, the physical issue, physical urges towards the other gender. These urges have to have 2 sides to them. The first is the body heat. It's related to a person's body's heat. Okay? So a person fulfills this urge. The second is psychological. In 1 hour, or in one day, it's not possible, in the summertime, you can say. However, psychologically, a person continues to be obsessed by this urge, by this shahwa. This is with regards to this particular shahwa type. What about fame? A person will say, okay, today I'm known, for example, with a certain position. Tomorrow I want to reach a higher position. No, this is not enough. No, I want something higher. MP, no, that's not enough for me. I want also become a prime minister. No, maybe that's not even enough for me. I want to seek something even higher than that. Okay. This is a human being. That is this drinking from the sea water. That is the water of this dunya. The more you drink of it, the thirstier you will become. Now, in general, those societies which are obsessed by these shahawat, they only look like humans. أولئك كالأنعام, those are like cattle, والأضل. Why? They don't use the aql, they don't think about the spirit, they only think about this. That's it. This and a lower level of the human psyche, the human nafs. What? I want to fulfill myself, and I am thinking about my position, I'm thinking about my bank account, etc. Imam Khomeini radhiyallahu ta'ala alayhi, he says, he mentions how to deal with this natural inclination that a human nafs has. Don't ever think that this natural inclination that you have in your nafs to live forever or to want something unlimitedly, this is in vain. Allah put it in you. But you are actually attaching it to something you should not. Imam Khomeini, let us see what he says and I'll explain. He says in the book Madahir al-Rahmaniyah, he says the powerful and those who possess power are in a constant struggle to achieve ultimate power. However much power they already have. If those who possess power and authority were to be given the ability to control the entire material realm, the cosmos, the universe, from the earth to solar systems to galaxies and whatever is above them, then you will ask them, there is a level of power that's even higher than that, huh? They'll say, what will they do? So would you like to reach it? They will say, of course. It's impossible for them not to wish that. It is inevitable, actually. It's not even impossible that they won't wish for that. It is inevitable. 100% they will want what is higher. They will say, I wish I could even reach that level. I want to reach a higher level. Based upon that, what leads this unruly and uncontrolled nafs to rest? Yani this nafs, with what should it be connected? What should it be? What should its desire be? So that it can be content and finally satisfied. That is to reach and to strive to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, and to truly remember, Allah is infinite. Your nafs is programmed to look for something that is infinite. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that infinite. Allah does not have an end. He does not have a beginning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes and the way they manifest through all of existence infinitely. When you become attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you work with tahdib al-nafs, purification of the self, to remove those veils, and you finally will be able to perceive, and to feel, to sense Allah with your heart, with your soul, you will truly say, what in the world was I attached to? I was attached to this. This that is going to pass in a couple of days when I have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let me try to simplify it for you. Imagine you have a great, in our lives we may have lived with some great ulama. Correct? And of course, this comparison is very, very, very far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine this. Somebody who is so influential, who affected you in your life so much, you loved, and you had the best of traits and sifat and characteristics. Okay? You felt truly this person is something. And whenever you would be in his company, you would just be so happy. Correct? You must have had somebody in your life like that. But imagine now you go to the imams, infallible. Their mercy is more than that can be described with words. Their knowledge, they know everything related to this world and the higher realms. Samawat al-sab'a, everything. Knowledge is like that. Wisdom is like that. Whatever problem you have, you go to him. Whatever problem, social, political, security related, immigration, if you have a problem related, for example, to your finance, whatever, spiritual, knowledge related, Imam alayhi salam will solve it for you. Go to the Prophet, now a higher level. After the Prophet, go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now try to imagine. Whatever you want, whatever you need, a human being can reach that level that they can understand and they can receive this divine inspiration. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, due to his self-purification, Dhul Qarnayn, whose story is mentioned in the Holy Quran, he was not a prophet. He was a wali, a divine saint. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was inspiring him. Allah was inspiring him. When he reached one of the aqwam, one of the peoples, Allah inspired him. And he told him, either punish them, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a second choice, or take a decision with regards to them. Okay? This is a divine inspiration. A human being can reach that. Then he continues, because to be totally absorbed in Allah is the only thing which can lead to peace and reassurance. And this is what the ayah of the Holy Quran points to. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Yani when is it unquestionably by the remembrance of Allah, hearts are reassured. Yani that remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make Him your goal, you'll be able to reach that. With regards to the love of immortality that a human being has, this quality, everybody is true, is correct. You should have it, and it's not something negative. The only problem is, many people who look to live eternally, they are actually believe that eternity is in this dunya. No, you just have it wrong. It is in the afterlife. It is in the akhirah. خالدين فيها. They will live in it immortally, forever. However, in this dunya, no, things are limited. So that's why what they try to do is, they try to find many different ways today to keep on living, either freezing their brains or looking for ways to either keep their bodies, etc. This comes from that natural instinct of a human being. It is as if the nafs is disturbed and it's in constant agitation. It wants this. So give it to it, but in the right way. The akhirah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in that lecture, with regards to Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi, when I mentioned that long narration about how those Jews came to the Imam sallallahu alayhi and they were asking him, one of the questions that they asked him in the end is that this person, he tells the Imam sallallahu alayhi that explain the Holy Prophet to me, describe the Prophet to me as if I could see him. Because the answers you answered are correct. Everything checks out. Okay? Now I want to look at the description as well. And when you call Barclays, okay, they take your security details, except if you have voice security. But they take your details, okay? They will ask you a few questions to make sure that you're the correct person. Correct? But this is the same. They asked Imam alayhi salam the questions, they said, these questions they check out. Okay. Let us see, this Prophet whom you mentioned, is it the same Prophet that Dawood salamullah alayhi informed us about? Okay. Imam alayhi salamullah alayhi, he started to weep. He told him that you have stirred my sadness and my grief over the Holy Prophet's loss. But I will describe it for you. He says, كان حبيبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله صلت الجبين. That is to say, his forehead, it was clear, it was white, and it was shining. Yani with nur. It was bright with nur. مقرون الحاجبين. Yani that is to say, his two eyebrows, they were connected in the middle. أدعج العينين. Yani these descriptions of Imam alayhi salam, yani these are not normal Arabic. That balagha and the eloquence of Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi, it would be even difficult for Arabs at that time to understand some of his words. أدعج العينين, it means a person who has wide eyes, and the white is extremely white and the black is extremely black. Those were the eyes of the Holy Prophet. Sahal al-Khaddain. Sahal is like a plane. Is a plane. So the Holy Prophet's cheeks were not chubby. He did not have a lot of meat in them. Aqna al-Anf. He had a curved nose. He had a curve in his nose. Daqiq al-Masraba. That is to say, the hair from his chest to his belly button, it was small. It did not have really long hair. Not very dense. As for his beard, it was dense and it was curly. His front teeth, they were sparkly white. His neck was very bright, كأنه إبريق فضة, like it is a silver cup, a shiny silver cup. Neither very tall nor very short. The Holy Prophet, he had a special characteristic to him. All of you know that he did not have a shadow. This itself should have been enough for anybody to believe in him. Correct? Fine. Secondly, the Holy Prophet, he was not neither very short nor very tall. But if anybody would walk with him, even if he would naturally be tall, he would not be able to see himself as taller than the Prophet. So this is a miracle of the Prophet. Even if he was 7 feet, if he would walk next to the Prophet, he would not be able to see him, the Prophet, from above. Okay? If he would walk with people, they would be covered and encompassed with his nur. If he would walk, it is as if he was being uprooted from a rock, or descending from a slope, or from a downslope. His heel bones were round, his feet were small, his waist was thin. He was the most compassionate person towards people. Between his shoulders, he had the seal and the mark of prophethood in 2 lines. The first, La ilaha illallah, and the second, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Upon that, these 2 Jews, they actually embraced Islam, and they became among the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen. When they embraced Islam, they recited the Shahadatain, and they said that وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْوَصِي, that you are the true prophet, the true wasi, successor of the Prophet, not somebody else. And they remained with Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi. They became amongst his Shias. One of them was martyred in the battle of the camel, the Jamal. The second was martyred in the battle of Siffin. Imam Ali sallallahu alayhi, during the caliphate of the first caliph, have you ever thought of the fact that during the time of the Holy Prophet, all those battles that were happening in Islam, we always heard about the heroics of Imam Ali Islam. Correct? After his Khilafah, we also heard about the heroics of Imam Ali Islam in those 3 big battles. In Siffin, in Naharawan, okay? And the battle of Al-Jamal, the battle of the camel. Correct? But between those 2 periods, where were the heroics and the bravery of Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi? Why are they not mentioned? Has anybody thought about that? Now, because now we also have a question and answer session, now I would like you to hear your opinion about this before giving my answer, so that we can start having a small kind of discussion. Anybody has any guess? Why are the heroics and the bravery of Imam alayhi salam during this time of the caliphate of the 3 caliphs not mentioned? Anybody? Yes.
Is it because the Prophet had advised him to lie low
During this time?
during this time?
Is it, yani the brother is saying that, is it because the Prophet ﷺ had advised him to lie low during this time, to keep a low profile and not to go out? No, it's not. Any other suggestion? Any other possible answer?
The history that was recorded
Has been fabricated. Okay, has the history been fabricated during this time? No, it's not. It has been fabricated, but not about this. Not about this particular issue. The answer should be very, very easy to mention. It's just very straightforward. Please, anybody? One last attempt by somebody.
Molana mostly or always fought just for the sake of Allah. There could be battles, not just for the sake of Allah. There could be, like, say, they might be the materialistic reason, or they just want to occupy more and more lands, something like that.
Okay, this could be part of the reason. This could be part of the reason. But Imam, I'll repeat the answer for the sisters as well, that it is because of the fact that some of the battles that took place during the time of the caliphs were for materialistic and expansional reasons. They were not for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, it is not only that. some of the battles they may have had this kind of mentality and this kind of niyyah. And it would be natural for Imam Ali alayhi salam to not take part in that. So partially what you say is correct. But there were certain times when to go into battle in order to defend the Muslim lands, a proactive defense had to be taken. You need to start by defending even from outside your borders, before them coming into the Muslim lands. It was necessary. For example, during the time of the first Khalifa, there was a battle between the Muslims and the Romans. And upon this, Bayt al-Maqdis was conquered. It was taken by the Muslims. Jerusalem, Al-Quds, correct? Where was Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi? Imam Ali alayhi salam, he was a military leader. He was somebody who had a lot of experience. At that time, the capital was where? In Medina. The Khalifas did not have the same military expertise as the Imam sallallahu alayhi. So they would keep him. Why? In order to help them in the headquarters, in the command center, to seek his advice. Based on the strategy that the Imam sallallahu alayhi laid down, the Muslims were able to be victorious in that battle in which they freed and they took control of Bayt al-Maqdis, which was in control of the Romans during that time. So, one of the reasons is the fact that the Imam sallallahu alayhi, not every battle he would agree to, correct? Secondly, when there was that need and the Imam saw the general interest of the Muslims, the Imam was there to give counsel to the Khalifas. Thirdly, they were also not allowing him to leave, yani. And fourthly, this may also have had to do with the fact that the Imam sallallahu alayhi, had he been allowed to go in those battlefronts, the Muslims would have remembered his heroics and his influence would have increased. So what they were trying to do is to keep him isolated. Why? So that he would not stir any problems for them. Okay? And we've still got a few minutes? Yes. Yes. 5 more minutes? 5 more minutes. Any questions that we can benefit from, we can answer. Brothers or even sisters said they can slip a question on a piece of paper and we can read it out, please.
Any question for this topic?
Anything.
I have a question here.
You can.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
There's one ayah, Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 187. The ayah says, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامُ الرَّفَثُ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ
صحيح.
هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنَّ
صحيح.
علم الله أنكم كنتم تختانون أنفسكم فتاب عليكم وعفى عنكم فالآن باشروهن وابتغوا ما كتب الله لكم. And to the end of the ayah. My question is, to my understanding, this ayah, it means that Muslims were prohibited
Correct.
to have sleep with their wives
Correct.
during the time of Ramadan.
Sorry, in the beginning.
But I cannot find the ayah in the Quran which prohibited them, just as in the ayah which allowed them. The prohibition which would come.
Fine. And myself, I would have to look. This ayah is a nasikh ayah. It's a nasikh ayah. It is an abrogating ayah, like you're saying. It cancelled a former hukum and fatwa. And the question, so that the sisters can also know, in the Surah Al-Baqarah, in verse number 187, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now permitting the Muslims to have physical relations with their spouses, with their wives. And it is as if the Muslims, they were not abiding by a previous prohibition to not have these relations with them. And after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He had mercy on them and He made it halal. That is true. Before this verse was revealed, it was haram for them. And this verse is a nasikha verse, that is to say an abrogating verse. It cancelled a former hukum, a former fatwa, which was this. As for the mansukh ayah itself, I would have to look for it, but it does not necessarily have to be in the Holy Quran. itself. It can be a hukum, that's the Holy Quran, the hukum that was given by a narration, which this verse came and it abrogated and it cancelled. So it does not have to be in the Holy Quran 100%. But regardless, I will look for the answer, or I will look for the verse which actually gave that, to see if there is, it is present, inshallah. I will give that to you tomorrow, inshallah. A couple of more minutes. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Concerning the topic we was talking about just now,
Yes.
that means Imam Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, after the Prophet, he never fight any war except during the time of the Prophet and when himself he was
Khalifa. Yes. Yes, it seems so.
No.
If he has taken part in any other battles, I mean, I myself, I haven't found that. But I will look for it to see. But I don't think so. He did not take part in anything. Otherwise, it would have been mentioned. Because you see, Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, whenever he goes to battle, and he always has to be the center of focus. Why? Because of the fact that he is such a warrior. And based upon this, I mean, we have not seen it mentioned anywhere that the Imam sallallahu alayhi actually took part. Even in our own sources, yeah. Because whenever he did take part in any particular battle, he was the hero. He was the champion. Right? There is no mention of any other such instances.
And when he was after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was leading the prayer? I mean, as Imam, it was because he's the Amir. So was he following the Khalifa, or was he doing it on his own?
There is a possibility that he was praying mutaba'a. You know what mutaba'a is? Mutaba'a is that the Imam sallallahu alayhi, he would be praying himself. He would look like he was praying with the other Muslims. Or there is even a possibility that the Imam sallallahu alayhi was doing something which is called taqiyat mudarat. Taqiyat mudarat, and to do taqiyya, simulation, in order to deal positively with someone. For instance, Yusuf salamullahi alayhi, during the time that he was in the palace of Pharaoh, Fir'aun, his king, he was doing a lot of things which are actually haram, correct or not? But Yusuf salamullahi alayhi, the message that he had to spread tawheed, if he had told them every single thing, this is halal, this is haram, this is haram, this is haram, there's a possibility that guy, he would have said, "Bana, this is enough for me." Okay. So he acted with taqiyat mudarat. Okay. And there are other cases as well of the Imam sallallahu alayhim doing the same thing. Why? For the unity of the Muslims. So it is also possible that the Imam would have prayed. Why? Because there is this secondary hukum. The first hukum is that Imam Jama'ah has to be adil. That's it. If someone usurps the khilafah, then this person has done something that does away with his adala. But the secondary hukum, the secondary fatwa is, in order to preserve Muslim unity in such a situation, it is permissible to recite salawat with them. Okay?
Question.
Yes.
You did mention about the heroism of Imam Ali, which was undoubtedly
Correct.
What was the position of heroism of the Prophet in the battles in the presence of Imam Ali?
The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What was the position of the Holy Prophet in these battles? Okay. Next to Imam Ali sallallahu alaihi. Imam Ali sallallahu alaihi, of course, whenever he was fighting, there is one narration that I will summarize with everything I need for you. Imam Ali alayhi salam himself, he says in Nahjul Balagha, he says that when we would be in battles, nobody would be closer to the enemy than the Holy Prophet. And when battle and war would become very intense, we would seek protection with the Holy Prophet. But the Holy Prophet, in history, he has never killed anybody. He has only injured people when necessary in order to defend. But he has never He is not being recorded to have killed anybody. Okay. Now, it is actually, let me tell you something now. One of the things is that in the Holy Quran, have you read the story of David and Goliath, of Jalut and Talut, and Jalut and Dawood salamullah alayh? Everybody read that story? No? The story of David and Goliath, I'll say it in English. You know about it, correct? No? Okay. And the story of Dawood alayhi salam and Jalut. Jalut was a Canaanite from Canaan, from that part of the Levant, that part of Sham, Bilad Sham, but Canaan was his older name. And he was known to be from one of the tribes who had people who were very, very giant and were very, very tall. From that tribe of Arabs, Amalekah. But Dawood salamullah alayhi, he was a small soldier in the army of Talut. The king was Talut. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet Samuel, he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to you Talut as a king. But now, normally in a battle, you have your main commander, you have your generals, and you have your soldiers, etc. Normally what happens? Does the main commander, the leader of the army, or the king, whatever, is he the one to be at the battlefront and to fight, etc.? What do you do normally? You protect him. Correct? Even though in the Holy Quran Allah mentions that Talut was very muscular. زَادَهُ بَسَطًا فِي الْعِلْمِ وَالْجِسْمِ. Allah had increased him in knowledge and strength. He was very muscular. Dawood salamullah alayhi, he was a young child during that time. He was a teenager. But even though there was that muscularity difference, but Dawood salamullah alayhi went to fight. The same was with regards to the Holy Prophet. That does not mean that Imam Ali is braver than the Holy Prophet. No, the Holy Prophet is braver. Okay? But you have this logistical factor. Normally when you have the leader of the Muslims, the leader of the army, that leader, his job is normally to remain in the headquarters and to take care of how the different strategies and tactics are applied in the battlefield. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.